assessment task number 2. Let's have a look at it. First of all, let's go to the assessment info on Moodle, have a look, click open the assessment guide, and let's have a bit of a read. So I'm going to bring it onto screen now, and the task is the unit outline. So you've done unit outlines before. So what am I looking for? What are we looking to do here? Yes, we need to fill in all the elements of the unit outline. And therefore bring in not only the learning rationale, the learning intentions and so forth, through to a sequence of learning, but also the assessment. So drilling in precisely what it is, and we'll have a look at the unit outline template and science connections shortly. But let's have a look at the what is required. So down here, computer to use an outline, and the template is on the same page under assessment. We're looking at a term, roughly 8 to 10 lessons. So there's a sequence of development that's going to through 2 assessment activities, one being the summative task, okay, and a marking guide for making judgments. What I want also is one, what I call a showcase lesson. In other words, I don't need high detail in terms of your lessons of your sequence, but for one of them, yes, I do. And I'll use what I call a modified lesson template. So that, and particularly have a practical emphasis with the task that you're looking at. So that's the general scope. For what we're trying to establish is that for science, that you're using a developmental sequence of learning, and the 5E model, which is the framework in which Science Connections use, is that framework I'd like you to replicate. And so more information about those things are there. This is something that I think that would be important for you to consider, and that is that sentence. In other words, good teachers collaborate. Now, I don't want you to just cut and paste, but there is in the Science Connection programs a multitude of information, and it will have foci in terms of objectives, learning sequence. It uses the 5E model. So I'm very happy for you to translate what's in Science Connections into there. There will be some things like curriculum intentions and so on, which you can just, they are the same curriculum intentions. They're copy and paste. So the similarity report that I'll get through Turnitin, I'm not going to be concerned with various sections of the unit outline. You'll have a unique way of perhaps doing your lesson, and that will have your own character. So, interpreting what I'm saying, use the Science Connections to advantage because the teachers collaborate. They choose resources, and these resources are off the shelf. And so I'm expecting you to use that as your backbone. I'm expecting you to put your style and form and perhaps some different things into that unit, some additional resources, some additional ways of doing things, an extra step or an elaboration in there. But you can still use the Science Connections. Your assessment task and rubrics, there is also in Science Connections, but I'd like you to have that in very much a CHC form of work. So use it to your advantage. So this task is not supposed to be as onerous as it first appears. So let's have a look at some of the various things in terms of the CHC template, the unit outline, and also the lesson design. All right, we'll pull across the unit outline that is there, and you'll see the normal things you've been used to, the rationale, so on, so on. What are we going to be doing? Highlight those. It's just a matter of highlight. Your content descriptors, they're going to be straight from the Australian curriculum, as you're already aware of. General capabilities, and that's something that's built into the task. What are they? Now, Science Connections, again, will give you some heads up on that. Achievement standard, what year level are we looking at? And you can get that directly from the Australian curriculum website. Here's your tasks. There's 2 tasks. There's 1 and 2. Now, that's for you to add to, that is there. Now, you don't need to have 2 tasks and formative assessment along the way, although you might want to put some feedback things in there. So I'm not after a high level of detail there. Just indicative things that you're going to do. Useful cognitive verbs for you. The phase 1, 2, 3, etc. They are 5E phases. So I expect those to see that the 5 E's to come up in terms of what it's about. That is there. So that will be mirrored through. Resources, I want you to have an array of resources. It's not just science connections. No. The resources you want to bring in other resources, make sure that they are, where possible, some physical resources, a range of digital resources, videos, websites, even some worksheets that have been created. So those digital resources would be there, and normal referencing applies. So that's your template that I want you to do, and I'm happy for you to borrow your backbone of ideas from Science Connections. One lesson, one part of that will be actually distinctly is your lesson plan. So the lesson plan, it's a modified lesson plan. So it's not a full-blown one. Notice it has some common things, and I've blacked out some various things that I really don't want to high detail in, and you've got our own phase there. So what am I after in the lesson plan? Really, I'm after how have you managed this practical activity? What sort of pedagogies have you used? And we've gone down to the lab, we've done some of that ourselves, we've explored it in terms of some of our discussion. So I'm really interested, not with all the intricate detail, it's a unit plan exercise, but what I am interested in is your sequence and your design principles that you've employed there. So make that abundantly clear. This is how I'm running this lesson. Now, if you want to add a little bit of an extra at the end of this, because it is a modified task and a bit of a justification, you can either put it prior to your activity lesson or after there. So I've got a bit more of an understanding of what sort of methodology that you've used in terms of this task. What I've pulled into the screen now is Science Connections. So if we have a look here, you notice it's got an assessment rubric, it's got some journal, not that I advise you to use that aspect of it, but all the kit information and resource sheets. So that's where you go. So if we have a quick squiz at the unit that is here, there's an overview. If we downloaded that information, you'll find a myriad of things there. So let's have a quick, if it's fast, it's lovely. You've got your own accounts, log in. Okay, so beneath our feet it is Earth Science, so we're using that as an option, and it should, so we can scroll through here. Now, you're familiar with this format, but just to illustrate how we can do, look, there's your lessons, okay, learning teams, that's some of the pedagogy that they're using and so on. So you can fast forward through this and see that there's many things what we're pulling out of the curriculum that can go into your unit design. And also, this is your sequence of learning for so on. So look, they're the basic shell. As I said before, you to elaborate on that and make it your own. But I think you'll find a whole lot of interesting things. A little note, don't just leave out science understandings. You've got those two things, and inquiry skills and human endeavour are worth looking at in terms of your unit design. What other good stuff's in here? Okay, there's your general capabilities. So you've got those general capabilities and so on that you can actually fashion into the front part of your unit design. As I said, that's a really valuable resource, and most teachers will grab that resource and use that as a really core starting point for what you can do. So hopefully now that we've got this and we're pulling back to here, all that information in terms of a unit plan, lodgement and so on, and information is on your site. Enjoy. We are getting this done before we go on prac for intentionally, so that you can have a bit of free air time and thinking time and work time for your PEP experience.